Hello there and welcome back to Red Room. This video is about how I built my Kill Team board. A few weeks ago I played my first game of Kill Team and I really enjoyed it. So naturally I want to have my own home setup. Trouble is, I don't have any woodworking expertise, I don't really have much tools, and I don't have a workshop. So I needed to find something that scaled down to my level. What I ended up opting for were some of these A3 MDF boards. They're about 3mm thick. And they're ideal because they come in packs of 10. And what we're going to be doing today is making a modular board. So that means 4 quarters coming together to build a larger whole. With 10 boards in a pack, that means you have potentially 2 whole Kill Team boards you can make. 4 if you want to do them in a double-sided way, but obviously think about the damage to tables. So, now the question is, how do I cut these? Well, thankfully, they are totally cuttable with a Stanley knife. All you need is something straight and sturdy to use as a ruler against it. In my case, I used a bathroom tile. I'm sure there are steel rulers and other things that are more appropriate for this matter. But either way, it's accessible and it's fine. So let's go and see how I cut it, and then we'll get back to how we then decorated it. I've agonised over how to cut this. I've been through a whole range of possibilities, using a Dremel, using a powered saw that just was not the right, none of these things were the right tool for the job. But in the end, what's come to the rescue is a trusty Stanley knife. You've just got to go over it a number of times to get through, but then you actually end up with quite a clean cut. So all I've done here is I've measured 11 inches by 15 inches, which I can't offhand remember the centimetres equivalent, which is bad as a creature of science, but you can look up the conversions. So indeed, and I've just marked off the bits I want to cut off. So now I'm just going to score this with a Stanley knife until I get the desired shape. Right, and just wanted to give you a quick look at how I've been cutting this straight, well, reasonably straight. It is of course the very scientific and totally builder approved spare bathroom tile method here. But it's straight and it's got a good proud edge which is easy to draw a knife against, so that's what we're using. So then we're left, mad Dutch angle, sorry, then we're left with our cut down boards, and I think the edges are perfectly acceptable. They're not brilliantly straight, but they will certainly do. And the nice thing is we still have the 2 good proper machined edges that we can use to butt up against each other. So I just need to do another couple of those, and that is the Kill Team board outline done anyhow. So I'll get back to you. So this is one of our sections that's been cut to size. As you may be able to see, it is section C. Ooh. We need to cover this in PVA glue now, so the sensible answer would be to use a big paintbrush, but I'm not feeling sensible. So I'm instead going to use one of the offcuts to smear all the PVA glue onto here. And just a little sneak peek of some of the terrain I've been doing. I've really enjoyed it actually. I thought it would be really tedious and I wouldn't want to do it, but no, it's been quite liberating in its own little way. Fun. So yeah, we're going to liberally apply lots of PVA to this. Inevitably we're going to have to reapply, no doubt. It will level out quite a lot, so don't get too worried about really visible marks. You don't want obvious gouges or anything, but give the PVA glue a little bit of time to settle. Same with the brush marks if you were using a paintbrush. Now, one of the things I was really concerned about when doing this was the edges started to turn up a little bit, because it's reasonably thick, but it's not immune to the, you know, the effects of sagging and warping and what have you. So you might want to put something on this, on the corners perhaps. But in the end, when it was all dry, I was pretty happy. It wasn't too bad. I was really expecting worse. But yeah, you may want to think about how you leave it to dry. Or put some books, you know, get a weight and put some books on it and spread the load over it to sort of press it down. Because what you don't want is boards that are rocking and, you know, turned up at the corners and everything, because that's no better than the quote-unquote playmat that we're trying to replace. And we are going to use the bottom of the quilting box for this. This is the sand we're going to be using. I was under a listing of sand with stones on eBay, and it's 1.5 kilos of it I got. So you get 3 bags, which I guess have got 500 grams in it each. And that will be more than enough, because this is the first bag and I still have this much, and I've done 2 boards, so yes. And I'm really pleased with this because it's mixed. You get quite a lot of stones, you get quite a lot of variety in there, but nothing is too big, nothing is too overpowering. Just gonna throw it all on there. And we're not going to worry too much about finesse, because that's the idea of having it in the box. We can get all of that excess easily, and then we're going to spread it. You probably won't get perfect coverage the first time round, that's fine. We will patch that up. When it's dried, because you won't know until it's done. I am aware that spreading it around like this does mean that all of these big stones are getting pushed out, but I don't want too many big stones, to be fair, because then they interfere with placing terrain. If you just give it the odd sort of little scoop and bring some in. And you can always go back in afterwards and make specific little rock formations and what have you. Okay, we're going to want a little tiny bit more. So we're just going to put it around the edge. Okay, and we're going to tip it up, see what we got. Hopefully without destroying what we've done. Here comes the avalanche. That's not a bad job. Bit of a problem around the edges, but there and there, but we can deal with that. So I became a little bit concerned that the board was turning up at the corners a little bit too much, or at least one of them was. So to combat that, what I did was paint the other side with PVA glue, leave it to dry, and just as it's getting tacky and not too sticky, stuck some weights on it. So that's why we've got polyfiller and the sand tub on top. board is nice and sandy now, and dry and flat, so we're going to get on and spray it. I'm going to use an airbrush. You do not have to if you don't have an airbrush. You can use any number of rattle cans. I'm pretty sure army painter have some good browns. It can be any colour you want it to be fair. It doesn't have to be when I'm painting it. This just happens to be the colour I've done all of the bases of my kill team, so it makes sense to do it in a way that blends with them. So I'm going to use some ready mixed airbrush paint because of the amount of this I've been using. So this is Burnt Umber from Vallejo, but you can use any number of things. There are also all-in-one airbrushes that have a little canister thing at the bottom. Various different prices. I've seen some as low as £7. How good that is, I could not tell you. I have seen a review of one of the $40 ones, and they didn't seem bad. So if you want to invest in one of these, but you don't want to quite go as mad as shelling out, 200, 300 quid, that is a way to do it. But please don't be put off. Even if you had to use a big paintbrush and covered it like that, whatever gets the coverage on. Some of the techniques I might do later will be a little more difficult without an airbrush, but again, not impossible. Not impossible at all. So, and yeah, the beauty of this airbrush paint is that you just simply don't have to spend ages mixing it up when you're using large amounts of it. I should really invest in some more. And we're just going to cover it. I may take a couple of coats, but the main thing is this is not going to be our final base coat, so don't worry too much if it's a bit patchy. And now that's all dried, this is what it looks like. One tip I would give you is, and why this is on a Lazy Susan, which is frankly far too big, is keep turning this around. Make sure you attack it from multiple different angles if you are using an airbrush or spraying it, because you may find that you've got bits where you have caught it, but other bits, from another angle look a bit sparse. We're actually going to use that to our advantage now to do this next effect. So we are going to use some Amaranth Red from Vallejo. I'm going to use it in my airbrush, but you do not have to use an airbrush. What you would probably need to use is a very big dry brush like that, but bigger. Another way to do this is to use a makeup brush, which may be easier and more accessible to you, but please ask whoever's it is permission or you may die. Now we're just going to attack this from an angle so that we can catch all of the raised bits. If we were dry brushing, we would be coming from a sort of, I want to go from a unidirectional kind of a thing here, lots of swirly marks. It occurs to me that it's all very well and me telling you how to to use a dry brush, but how do you use a dry brush if you've never used one before? So this technique basically involves using a nice rounded brush like this, and taking most of the paint off, and then just sweeping gently across this, almost like you're dusting archaeology, to pick up all of these bits of texture, like what I'm doing with the airbrush, but manually. There are advantages to doing it that way, you've got a lot more control, but for a board like this, it is going to be a bit tedious. So that's the first highlight finished, and that's what it looks like. As you can see, we've got all these little bits, all these little raised bits of texture by coming in at the side. So now we're just going to add a second highlight, and we're going to use some light orange from Vallejo and mixed up with thinner, a flow improver and our airbrush. And it's the same again, just coming in from the side. We're not coming in from top down, we're coming in from the side so that we can catch all these raised bits nicely, but more sparingly than before. And we will now leave that to dry, and then we will start putting some grass on it. So, on to arguably the last major bit of this, sticking on some lovely grasses. So, these ones are Army Painter, and these two came from the same place that I got the sand on eBay. I think about £6-7 quid. I paid for either both of these or one of these, I can't remember. You'll pay more for the Army Painter stuff, but the advantage here is you get different sizes and they're a little bit better quality, I think. But yeah, no, great finesse needed here. Just peel them off and they're self-adhesive, which is amazing. Look at the world we live in today. And stick them wherever you want. If you've got any blemishes, if you've got any imperfections, these are very good for covering those over and making things look a little bit better. But main thing is just to be pretty irregular with where you put them. You don't want something that looks too obvious and deliberate and man-made, because that's not generally how nature is. You can put a very sparse amount on, you can put loads on. You can put none on, it is entirely up to you now, it is your board. There are no rules. And in all honesty, I think I'm happy with that. Now we could leave it there, call it done. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint these edges. And I'm going to paint them in such a way that I can see which ones butt up against each other versus which one's going to be facing outwards. Because it just makes life a little bit easier. It doesn't really matter as long as you cut it nicely. It shouldn't be a problem. For the edges that will be facing outwards, we're going to use some green grey from Vallejo, because that's what we've used on all of our bases, on our base edges, trims, or whatever you want to call them. So that unifies everything nicely, I think. There we go. And you're probably going to need a couple of coats of this. And then we'll do the black. And we've done all these edges, but it's almost impossible for you to see that. Yeah, there you go. And now we're going to paint what's left black. I'm not going to show that to you because it's impossible for me to film this, and I think you can imagine. Anything I will say is, unless you've sealed these edges with like PVA glue or something else, they're very thirsty, so you have to accept you're going to use a lot of paint to get coverage with it, so just be aware of that. And that's the black bits of those done. So the very last thing other than varnishing this, which I won't show you, If you don't have an airbrush, just any matte varnish from a hobby shop will do. I'm sure there are many alternatives out there, but Games Workshop do perfectly good matte varnish. So now we're just going to use some of these rubber feet, just to protect any surface that we put this stuff onto. Just going to put them in the corners. And with that, a little bit of varnishing, we are done. And I will show you the finished effect. And Luna says bye too.